Then we have the center of our new province, which is the old Ontario, Washington, Oregon, California, and New York provinces. The center is now in Oregon, the headquarters. And we have one province in Quebec, and we have what we call a mission sector, which is sisters in Peru and Brazil, and we're in Haiti. Now we have an associate, an inquirer from Haiti, but the physical locations are in Peru, Brazil, and a house in Quebec. And that all forms this mission sector, which is about 20 people. And they're still working on evolving how that structure best suits the mission and communion.
You know, you mentioned union, and now you mentioned communion. And in the initial stages of forming provinces, I identified that you mentioned distance, decisions that had to be made, and communications. So how have those changed dramatically that makes having more provinces not necessary for the Holy Name Sisters?
Well, I'd say that the motivation actually for our movement to fewer provinces is because of aging. We see the need to, we had quite a few leaders. We went from 5 provinces with, let's see, I guess 3, 6, 9, 12, about 15 leaders, about 3 in each of those provinces, to now in our one province we have 6 full-time leaders. And the orientation there was to do it for mission, because wanting to keep our sisters active in ministry, exercising their mission in different ways, rather than having as many people as we had in leadership within the congregation. It's been made possible by, of course, the improvement in communication. We do a lot of things using email and Skype, talking back and forth. You know, we still have meetings with one another, but those are less frequent actually, because we're divided into this large province that was formed is in 17 what we call mission centers, which are various sizes of groups, pretty much geographical. And they gather, and for example, here in California, when there's a funeral, or sometimes in the summer, we gather the sisters in this area. But as far as gathering as a whole province, we did that last summer, and we won't do that again until the summer after next, every couple of years.
Okay, and this new technology has certainly helped all of these areas of communication, haven't they?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, they have.
All right, what insights would you give to us on the evolution of our question, not the evolution of it, but the current knowledge you have of our congregation? What are the big questions we sisters in the United States need to look at as we move toward a final decision on our own governance being changed to province or region or not changed?
Well, because I had to flip my perspective, and I've been used to more consolidation and so forth, right away the question came to me of, well, what would be the purpose? What are the driving forces behind any change, really? But in this case, what are the values that would be furthered for you in terms of ministry and community and so forth? What, if you choose to do this, what would be enhanced, I think, would be the word I would use for you as a congregation? How would this really promote what's most important to you by changing the structure. Because anytime we change structure, there are a lot of implications. And I guess one of the things I've learned in working with groups that do change their structures, and one of the first groups I worked with was in around 1987, and it was two congregations that were reuniting after becoming two congregations early in their history. And as I moved from that to other experiences, I would say one of the key things I think is important in making the decision is an exploration of the implications, you know. So I guess when I look at what you're doing, I say, well, what are the implications? As concretely as you can make them. Looking at leadership, looking at finances, looking at decision making, looking at the implications, because then I think what happens is we weigh that and say, is it worth doing that for those things that are our values in doing this? I think it's like both sides of the scale. One needs to balance the other. If all of the things we will have to do to make it happen aren't really helping us become more united or more effective in ministry, then we wind up questioning it. You know? And I could say very honestly, I think we are 2 years into our new province, and we're still trying to answer those questions and reshape so that these reasons that we did it, which was to have good vitality in our mission, to have fewer people in leadership, but to have leadership exercised locally. You know, it's like, is the scale tipping the way we want it? You know, and we can't predict everything, but I think it's helpful to try to play out the implications as well as identifying the values and what it is that's really driving us in that direction.
Could you give us an example of a few tipping points? When you say what would tip the scale?
We, for example, are still trying to assess whether what we have done has brought leadership more into contact with us, and then we knew it wouldn't be more, but we wanted it to be an effective contact. And I think one of the things we learned was probably had we taken more time to work out some of the policies, some of the financial areas, a few more of the infrastructure questions, our leaders would have had more time to come out and be interacting with us. And so we're still working with the scales, and I think a lot of us say from time to time, our leaders have had to put a lot of infrastructure into place. So perhaps